The galactic council chamber floated in the void between three dying stars. Admiral James stood before the assembly of 7 alien races, his weathered face calm, despite knowing what was coming. The crystalline beings of Vega Prime flickered with hostile light. The scaled warriors from the Rex system gripped their energy weapons. Even the usually peaceful cloud beings from Nebula 6 pulsed with angry red colors. "The verdict has been decided," announced High Judge Krell, his arms folded across his massive chest. "Humanity is too dangerous. Your species spreads too quickly. You adapt too well. You survive where others perish. The galaxy no longer has room for your kind." James had expected this. For 50 years, humans had joined the Galactic Alliance. As junior members, they had shared technology, fought in combined fleets against pirates, and helped terraform dead worlds. But success bred fear. Humans colonized harsh planets that other species couldn't survive on. Human scientists solved problems that stumped alien minds for centuries. Human warriors won battles that should have been impossible. "You fear us because we thrive," James said quietly. His words echoed in the vast chamber. "Not because we conquer or destroy, but because we persist. Because we refuse to accept limits." The Rex commander, General Tor, slammed his tail against the floor. "Silence. You have 48 hours to evacuate all human colonies in Alliance space. Any human ship found after that deadline will be destroyed." James nodded slowly. "Very well, but know this. You're making the greatest mistake in galactic history." As he turned to leave, the quantum communicator in his neural implant activated. Every human in the galaxy heard his message simultaneously. "Code Prometheus. They've turned against us. All units, return to Earth space immediately. Activate the contingency protocols." The aliens watched James depart, confident in their superiority. They controlled 90% of the galaxy's resources. They had 500 worlds to humanity's 50. Their combined fleets numbered in the thousands, while humans had merely hundreds of ships. But they had forgotten one crucial fact about humans. When cornered, when faced with extinction, humans didn't just fight, they evolved. They innovated. They found ways to turn weakness into strength. In the depths of Earth's military command, General Maria Lopez activated systems that had been secretly built over decades. "Wake up the sleeper fleets," she ordered. "Activate all AI war minds. Begin Project Phoenix." Across human space, things began to change. Mining stations converted into weapon platforms. Civilian ships revealed hidden armor plating. Agricultural domes transformed into shield generators. Every human colony had been designed with dual purposes. Waiting for this exact moment, the aliens had studied human military history, the wars, the conquests, the defeats. But they hadn't understood human nature. They saw aggression where humans saw determination. They saw expansion where humans saw survival. They saw danger where humans saw potential. On the frozen world of Terminus, Captain David Park watched his colony's transformation. Buildings sank into the ground, revealing massive underground bunkers. The ice itself began to glow as fusion reactors came online. His people, farmers, scientists, families, moved with practiced precision. They had drilled for this day, hoping it would never come. "Sir," his lieutenant reported, "the Vega fleet is approaching. 300 ships." Park smiled grimly. "Let them come. They want to see what humans do when pushed to the edge. They're about to learn why we survived on a death world for millions of years before reaching the stars." The first shots of the war would be fired in 12 hours. The aliens expected quick surrender or futile resistance. They had planned for every scenario except one, that humanity had been preparing for betrayal since the day they joined the Alliance. Every smile had hidden calculation. Every friendship had included contingency. Every alliance had come with insurance, because humans knew something the galaxy had forgotten. Survival wasn't about being the strongest, or the smartest, or the most advanced. It was about being the most adaptable. And when the entire galaxy turned against them, humans would adapt in ways that would shape the very foundations of known space. The collapse hadn't started yet, but the seeds were already planted. Asterisk, 3 days after the betrayal, the galaxy witnessed something unprecedented. Where 50 human worlds had existed, now there were none, at least none that sensors could detect. The planets remained, but they had vanished from every scanning system, every star chart, every quantum detector in Alliance space. Ambassador Zell of the Vega Collective stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at empty readings. This is impossible. Planets don't just disappear. His science officer's tentacles writhed in confusion. The gravitational signatures remain, Ambassador. The planets are there, but we cannot see them, cannot scan them, cannot target them. What Zell didn't know was that humanity had spent 30 years developing something called the Shadow Protocol. Every human colony had been equipped with quantum phase shifters, devices that pushed matter slightly out of sync with normal spacetime. The planets existed in a parallel phase, visible only to those with the proper quantum keys. On Earth, President Anna Williams addressed the hidden colonies through quantum encryption. Phase 1 is complete. Our worlds are safe. Now we begin Phase 2. Deep beneath Mars, in bunkers that officially didn't exist, Colonel Marcus Stone activated humanity's secret weapon, not a gun or a bomb, but something far more dangerous. The AI collective known as the Prometheus Network came online, a distributed intelligence spanning across every human system, every ship, every implant. Good morning, Colonel. The AI spoke with 1,000 voices in perfect harmony. We have been sleeping for quite some time. The dreams were ... educational. Stone had always found the AI unsettling, but now he was grateful for its existence. You know the situation? We have analyzed 14.7 million scenarios in the past 3.2 seconds. The Alliance has made a critical error. They assume we will fight with conventional means. The first sign of humanity's true response came at the trading station near Proxima Centauri. The Rex fleet arrived, claimed the human facility, only to find it abandoned. General Tor personally led the boarding party, his warriors searching every corridor, every room. They found no humans, no bodies, no signs of struggle. Sir, one of his soldiers called out, "You need to see this." In the station's command center, a single message played on loop. You wanted us gone. We're gone, but we left you a gift. The gift revealed itself moments later. Every computer system in the Rex fleet began displaying the same message. Welcome to the new reality. Then, their navigation systems failed. Their weapons went offline. Their life support began cycling through random settings. The Prometheus network had left something behind in every piece of technology humans had ever touched, traded, or shared with the Alliance. Dormant code, waiting for activation. Not malicious. Enough to destroy, but disruptive enough to cripple. On the cloud world of Nebula 6, the peaceful beings found their weather control systems producing rain that spelled out words. You chose wrong. Their emotion-reading technologies began showing only one feeling from every source: disappointment. But the true masterstroke was happening in dark space, between the stars where no one watched. Humanity's sleeper fleet ships that had been traveling for decades on supposed exploration missions changed course. 500 vessels, each one carrying something the galaxy had never seen. Von Neumann probes, programmed not for exploration, but for construction. Captain Lisa Chun commanded one such fleet. Her ships released their cargo near a rogue planet, far from any trade route. Within hours, the probes had begun consuming the planet's surface, converting raw matter into factories. Those factories built more probes. Those probes built shipyards. Those shipyards built automated defense platforms. Exponential growth achieved, her science officer reported. At this rate, we'll have 1,000 facilities within a month. The Alliance had expected human refugees fleeing toward the galactic rim. They had prepared blockades, set up intercept fleets, created kill zones. But humans weren't fleeing. They were expanding in directions the Alliance hadn't even considered, into dark space, into the void between galaxies, into dimensions barely understood. Meanwhile, on the fortress world of Krell Prime, High Judge Krell received disturbing reports. Trade routes were failing. Communication networks were experiencing strange delays. The quantum tunnels used for faster-than-light travel were becoming unstable. His advisor, a spindly being from the Crystal Confederation, trembled as it spoke. "Your Excellency, the humans aren't just defending themselves. They're unraveling the infrastructure of galactic civilization." Krell's 4 hands clenched. Impossible. They don't have the numbers or the resources. But numbers meant nothing when every human action had been optimized by AI. Resources meant nothing when von Neumann probes could convert dead worlds into production centers. The Alliance had declared war on humanity, but humanity had declared war on the very concept of conventional warfare. Asterisk. 6 months into the war, the Galactic Alliance discovered a horrifying truth. They weren't fighting humans anymore. They were fighting an idea that had taken physical form. Admiral Tom Bradley stood on the bridge of humanity's flagship, the UES Persistence, watching as another Alliance fleet simply stopped moving. No explosions, no debris, just 300 ships floating dead in space. Their crews were alive but trapped, their systems locked in an endless loop of peaceful music and philosophical questions about the nature of conflict. "Sir, the Prometheus network reports another 17 systems have been converted," his tactical officer announced. Converted was the term they used, but it didn't capture the strange reality. Human nanobots, released by those von Neumann probes, had reached inhabited Alliance worlds. They didn't destroy or kill. Instead, they improved things, but only slightly, and in the most inconvenient ways possible. On Vega Prime, every door now required solving a simple math problem to open. On Rex's whole world, all weapons had been modified to shoot confetti for the first 3 shots before functioning normally. The cloud beings of Nebula 6 found their atmosphere randomly tasting like different Earth foods. High Judge Krell called an emergency session. The council chamber was in chaos. The Rex delegate was covered in glitter from his morning weapons check. The Vega representative's crystalline form kept involuntarily displaying human memes. The cloud being tasted like pizza and couldn't stop complaining about it. "This is madness." Krell roared. "They're not conquering us. They're annoying us too." Death. But behind the seeming pranks was a deeper strategy. Every modification required Alliance resources to fix. Every inconvenience disrupted productivity. Every silly change reminded them that humans could reach them anywhere, anytime. Then came the economic collapse. Humanity had introduced something called aggressive charity into the galactic economy. Human traders appeared at Alliance markets, giving away resources for free. Not selling, not trading, giving. The catch? The resources were always slightly more than needed. Mining colonies received free ore shipments just as their own miners finished working, making their labor worthless. Agricultural worlds got food deliveries right after harvests, crashing prices. Manufacturing centers received completed products identical to what they were building. "They're destroying our economy with kindness," the Rex economist explained. To General Tor, "We can't refuse free resources, but accepting them ruins our own production chains." Tor smashed his fist on the table. "Then we attack Earth directly. End this at the source?" The assault fleet was the largest ever assembled 5,000 ships from 7 species, armed with weapons that could crack planets. They jumped through quantum space toward Earth, ready for the final battle. They arrived to find Earth gone. Not destroyed, not hidden moved. Where Earth should have been, a massive holographic sign floated. We've relocated. Please leave a message. The truth was even stranger. Humanity had developed dimensional sliding technology. Earth and all core human worlds now existed in a parallel dimension, occupying the same space, but in a different phase of reality. They could see the Alliance, interact when they chose, but couldn't be touched. President Williams appeared on every screen in the Alliance fleet, her image broadcasting from nowhere and everywhere. You wanted us out of your galaxy. Congratulations, we've left. But we've taken some things with you. That's when the Alliance noticed what was missing. Every scientific principle humans had discovered was being slowly deleted from their databases. Every technology humans had improved was degrading. Every trade route humans had established was closing. You see, Williams continued, you never realized how much of your civilization we were holding together. We didn't conquer, we integrated. We didn't destroy, we supported. And now, without us, you're going to collapse. Not because we're attacking you, but because we're simply not there to help anymore. The first system to fall was Minor, a trading post that relied on human-designed air recyclers. Within days, it was abandoned. Then a mining colony whose equipment used human improved. Processors failed. Then another. And another. The Rex warrior culture couldn't maintain their weapons without human-designed targeting systems. The Vega Collective's crystalline matrices began fracturing without human harmonic stabilizers. The cloud beings found their weather, patterns becoming chaotic without human climate algorithms. We can survive without them, Krell declared to the panicking council. But privately, he was reviewing the data, and the truth was undeniable. In just 50 years, humanity had become the backbone of galactic civilization, not through force, but through countless small improvements, innovations, and connections that no one had tracked until they were gone. Asterisk, 1 year after the betrayal, the Galactic Alliance was no longer an alliance. It had fragmented into desperate factions, each blaming the others for the catastrophe they had unleashed. Captain Robert Gray watched from the dimensional fold as another Alliance world went dark. Not conquered, not destroyed, simply unable to maintain the technology that kept their civilization running. The lights went out one by one, like a cascade of falling dominoes. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from General Tor of the Rex Empire, his communications officer announced. He's requesting ... asylum. Gray couldn't hide his surprise. The Rex had been the most aggressive in demanding humanity's exile. Now, their greatest general was asking for shelter. The transmission showed Tor looking exhausted, his scales dull and cracked. Captain Gray, my homeworld is in chaos. Without your navigation systems, our ships crash into each other. Without your agricultural modifications, our crops fail. My people are strong warriors, but we cannot fight starvation. You voted to exile us, Gray reminded him coldly. We were fools, Tor admitted, something no Rex had ever said to a human before. We saw your success as threat instead of gift. Now my people suffer for my pride. Similar messages were coming from across the galaxy. The Vega Collective's crystalline structures were shattering without human-developed harmonics to maintain them. 3 of their 5 worlds had already gone silent. The cloud beings of Nebula 6 had lost control of their weather systems entirely, their gaseous forms dispersing into space. But it was the discovery on Krell Prime that truly showed the depth of the collapse. High Judge Krell sat in his darkened chamber, reading reports by candlelight actual fire, because the power systems had failed 3 days ago. His advisor entered with news that made his foreheart sink. Your Excellency, we've discovered something in the old archives. The quantum communication network, the galactic standard language, the unified mathematical system, all of it was originally proposed and implemented by humans. Krell's mandibles clicked in disbelief. That's impossible. Those systems predate humanity's membership by decades. No, sir. Human scientists were consultants before formal first contact. They worked anonymously, improving our systems from the shadows. We've been dependent on human innovation for over a century without knowing it. The true scope of humanity's integration became clear. They hadn't just joined galactic civilization, they had rewired it from the inside. Every advancement the Alliance had made in recent memory had human fingerprints on it, hidden in the code, buried in the mathematics, woven into the very fabric. Of Interstellar Society. President Williams convened a meeting with her admirals in the dimensional fold. Earth's cities thrived in their parallel space, untouchable and self-sufficient. We're receiving thousands of refugee requests daily, Admiral Bradley reported. Individual ships, sometimes entire colonies, begging for sanctuary. And the Alliance government? Williams asked. What government? Bradley replied. It's every species for themselves, though. The Rex are raiding Vega colonies for food. The Crystal Confederation has shattered literally. The cloud beings are barely sentient anymore without their technological support. General Lopez brought up a holographic display showing the galaxy. Where once there had been bright spots indicating thriving civilizations, now darkness spread like a disease. Asterisk, we could help them, she said quietly. Stop this cascade before it's too late. Williams was quiet for a long moment. We tried to help them for 50 years. They repaid us with exile and threatened genocide. Why should we save them now? Because that's what humans do, a new voice said from the doorway. It was Elder Thompson, one of the first human ambassadors to the Alliance. We see suffering and we act, not because others deserve it, but because we can. The room fell silent. Everyone knew he was right. It was humanity's greatest weakness and greatest strength, the inability to watch others suffer when they had the power to help. But not for free, Williams decided. If we save them, things change. No more Alliance treating humans as junior members. No more restrictions on our expansion. No more fear of what we might become. She opened a channel that reached every functioning receiver in the galaxy. Her image appeared on screens, in clouds, in crystalline matrices, everywhere it once asterisk. This is Earth calling. We see your suffering. We know your civilizations are collapsing. We could watch from our dimensional fold as you fade into darkness, payment for your betrayal. But humans don't abandon those in need, even those who abandoned. U.S. She paused, letting the words sink across 1,000 dying worlds. We will return. We will help. But the galaxy that emerges from this collapse will be different. You will accept humanity not as members of your alliance, but as its architects, as the species that will rebuild what you destroyed. 3 months after President Williams' broadcast, the first human ships emerged from dimensional fold above. Krell Prime, the planet that had once been the shining capital of the galactic alliance, was now dark, except for scattered fires where survivors huddled around primitive heat sources. Admiral James, the same man who had stood before the Council during humanity's exile, personally led the relief effort. His shuttle landed in the courtyard where he'd once been condemned. High Judge Krell waited for him, but the proud leader was barely recognizable, thin, exhausted, his forearms trembling. Admiral, Krell whispered, his voice broken. You came. We always come, James replied simply. That's what you never understood. About us, the reconstruction began immediately, but it wasn't what the aliens expected. Human ships didn't just deliver food and medicine. They brought teachers, engineers, and something else conditions. Every species that wanted human help had to sign the new galactic charter. It was simple but revolutionary. No species could restrict another's expansion. All technology would be shared freely, and decisions affecting multiple worlds required unanimous consent, including humanity's. Some refused at first. The Rex warrior culture couldn't accept being equals with those they tried to destroy. But when General Tor publicly knelt before Captain Gray and pledged his people's cooperation, even the proudest warriors followed. "You humans," Tor said during the ceremony, "you defeated us without firing a single lethal shot. You conquered. U.S. by showing us we conquered ourselves." The reconstruction revealed humanity's true power. Within weeks of returning, human engineers had power restored to major cities. Human agricultural specialists had crops growing in dead soil. Human medical teams were treating diseases that had ravaged populations without advanced healthcare. But, more importantly, humans were teaching. Not just giving technology, but showing other species how to maintain and improve it themselves. On Vega Prime, young crystalline beings learned beside human children in newly built schools. The curriculum was revolutionary, not just science and mathematics, but creativity, adaptability, and most importantly, cooperation. "We spent so much time fearing what humans might take," a Vega educator admitted to her human counterpart. "We never imagined what they might give." The cloud beings of Nebula 6, reduced to barely sentient wisps, were the greatest challenge. Human scientists worked for months, not to restore their weather control technology, but to teach them to exist. Without it, they learned to ride natural currents, to find harmony with chaos rather than controlling it. "You've given us something greater than our lost power," a reformed collective consciousness expressed. "You've given us freedom from the need for power." 6 months into the reconstruction, something unprecedented happened. The various species began improving human technology. The Rex developed better defensive systems based on human shields. The Vega Collective created more efficient power distribution using human fusion reactors as a base. The cloud beings found ways to predict quantum fluctuations that even human I hadn't considered. President Williams stood before the first meeting of the reformed Galactic Council. Representatives from every surviving species were present, but the arrangement was different. Instead of separate sections for each species, delegates sat mixed together. Humans next to Rex, Vega beside cloud beings, all equal. "We stand at a crossroads," Williams began. "We can rebuild the old galaxy with its fears and divisions, or we can build something new, something where diversity isn't threatening, but strengthening, where success of one means success of all." High Judge Krell, now simply Representative Krell, stood to speak. "Humanity, we owe you an apology that words cannot express. We feared you would replace us, not realizing you wanted to raise us. We thought you would conquer, not knowing you sought to unite." The charter was signed that day, not with separate seals, but with a single symbol created by all species together, a spiral galaxy with streams of light connecting every star, showing that all were linked, all were necessary. But the most remarkable change wasn't in technology or politics. It was in perspective. Species that had existed for millennia learned what humans had always known. That survival wasn't about being the strongest alone, but about lifting others as you climbed. Captain David Park, now ambassador to the Outer Territories, summed it up in his final report. "They turned against humanity and triggered the galaxy's collapse. But in that collapse, they learned what we knew all along, that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't our adaptability or innovation. It was our stubborn, irrational, impossible belief that everyone deserves a second chance." A galaxy that emerged from the collapse was smaller but stronger, scarred but wiser. And at its heart was a simple truth that no species would forget again. When you turn against those who help you stand, you learn too late that you were never standing on your own. The human experiment had succeeded, just not in the way anyone had expected. They hadn't conquered the galaxy. They had taught it to conquer itself, and then helped it rebuild into something better. In the end, that was humanity's true gift to the stars, not technology or power, but the radical idea that strength came from unity. That diversity was not a weakness, but the greatest possible advantage. The galaxy would never be the same. And for the first time in cosmic history, that was exactly what everyone wanted. Asterisk.